Increasing Technology and Increasing Crime, a conversation with Jonathan Steele of SteeleFortress.com. That is our topic for today. Welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast, where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Catch regular episodes on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. Just remember, nothing in these episodes constitutes legal advice, so be sure to talk to a lawyer, as cases are fact dependent. Hey everyone, this is Mac Pierre-Louis, lawyer, mediator, arbitrator, and welcome back to the LMI podcast where we talk law and conflict resolution topics. So today I am back with Jonathan Steele, an attorney up in Chicago with Berman Law Group, and also the owner of Steel Fortress's cybersecurity company. And so, Jonathan, you've been back, previously, and now you're returning here now to talk to us about security. So, how are you doing today, Jonathan?
I'm okay. Thanks for having me back.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming back, and I always appreciate, you sharing knowledge that you have when it comes to this space. So, I'm gonna first off share my screen. If you're listening to this, check out the YouTube video. So, just to quickly introduce you again, Jonathan Steele, you're a partner at Berman Law, and you do a lot of family law. I guess you have, you're a jack of all trades in a way, right? You do family law, but you also do cybersecurity. You own your own company in that domain. And so that's steelfortress.com. And that's really why I wanted you to have you on here today, because you are an expert to discuss this security and technology thing. And wanted to get right into um, the topic that can help open up this discussion. So everyone knows what happened a few months ago. Okay, there was assassination of the United Healthcare CEO, basically in broad daylight. Well, it was at nighttime, I guess, by a man named Luigi Mangione, who killed the CEO, and he has his reasons, I guess, but it's still murder, and murder is murder. It's against the law and it's evil. However, it created a whole lot of discussion online, particularly between people who saw him as some kind of Robin Hood or whatever. But we're not talking about that today. We're not trying to memorialize anybody in that regard. But we are talking about the technology that he used to evade capture for days and the technology he used to plan his crime. So it just got me thinking, are we at a time, are we at an inflection point where these days, because of the increased pace of tech advancements, because of increased AI, because of all the things that are happening that allow people to evade certain things that have been set up in the system, are we entering a time where it is easier to commit crime due to the technological know-how that you have? And I wanted you to come on and just give me your thoughts on that. And that's the first example. And then we'll segue over to the more recent example where someone was using technology. And that's where on New Year's Day, Shamsuddin Jabbar, this man went and he killed 15 people and injured more than 30 people in New Orleans. And he also had used tech to scout the place and prepare for his crime and do the crime. And so is it a pandemic of tech geeks or tech nerds now using the technology to know how that they know to inflict harm on others? Is it a pandemic? Who knows? But wanted to kind of get your take on it, and then so just go ahead and give me your position first, and then I would like to play a little bit of the CNN article that's talking about Mangione.
I think the short answer is yes, that, the increase in tech makes crime more ascertainable or makes it more user friendly. It's a nuanced answer, I think, because it's a tool. So a tool like a firearm, a tool like a hammer is, depending on the intention of the person that's holding it, depending on what you're doing with it, it could be good or it could be bad.
Yep.
So I'm reluctant to blame the tech, but it makes it easier. AI is like that playing field leveler where a common man off the street with little or no education is on a similar playing field as a professor because they have the availability of these advanced large language models. So it certainly puts it easier to grasp. But on the same token, it should make it easier to police. Because it's a tool. If you have thousands of hours of surveillance footage to review to try to find a criminal, and you have the ability to have AI do it in the place of like a police officer, that tool on the other end of the spectrum is going to aid law enforcement and potentially decrease crime. So it is nuanced, but I do think that sort of in a vacuum, giving more resources, giving more tools to criminals is going to help them.
Exactly. And I'll share my screen back to this article. This article is dated. Well, I don't see the date. However, it happened just recently in the last few weeks. Obsession with gizmos helps suspect evade police, analysts say. And I'll go to the 1 minute mark. And let me see if I can play it. All right.
His profile from being identified. His big mistake ultimately, of course, was there were so many cameras that eventually they were able to capture additional pictures, in particular one in the taxi cab. But now that he's been caught, a lot of those surveillance features helped come up with pictures that would ultimately at least be publicized so that the person at the McDonald's was able to identify him. No family member came forward, as we now know, and it was just the sort of see something, say something aspects of this.
So that's one of the things that's interesting to me. On the one hand, is a surveillance state, as she stated, and those libertarian-leaning folks, that might send a shudder down your spine because there's cameras everywhere in New York. Everybody's face is being recorded, and imagine how it is in, I don't know, Beijing, for example. Okay, so on the one hand, we have the technology that is trying to keep us safe. It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous, and we all know it's there. We kind of accepted it. It's just part of our lives. But on the other hand, he was able to evade being caught for quite a while. So how how do we reconcile this? Is it the fact that because of his technological know-how, he and other people like him will be in the future able to outsmart the tech? Is if so, isn't that kind of scary for the rest of us?
It's a delicate balance, right? So,
Mhm.
individual freedom and liberty versus public safety, and it's a hard thing to navigate for any government. You see where it works and where it doesn't work in different case studies around the world.
Yeah.
China, for instance, is very open about the fact that they are a surveillance state, and they profess to have less crime because of the psychological impact on people
Mm.
knowing they're being watched all the time. But it feels very Orwellian to
Yeah.
me.
Exactly.
I don't like anything about a surveillance state, um, and I think the resource or the research here is that mass surveillance does not equate to catching more criminals. That's
Mm.
what it's sold as. It's a bill of goods. It's sold by people that want to push that agenda, but the studies don't back that up.
Mm. So, do you think there's anything that can be done ultimately, or will this always be the case where it doesn't matter how much surveillance and technology you try to deploy, as a society, there's always going to be, that cat and mouse game where somebody's going to get away with stuff like this.
As you were articulating the question, the phrase "cat and mouse" came to mind. That's
Mm.
what it's going to be. I've
Yeah.
seen glasses that you can buy on Amazon that supposedly obstruct your whole face. They somehow interact with like the infrared part of
Mm,
surveillance cameras, and it sends back like a glowing image of your whole face.
interesting.
And that's just one way of thwarting the cameras on the corner. So I do think it's going to be either cat and mouse or some sort of game of whack-a-mole.
Yeah. Well, remember back in the day, I don't know how old you are, but back in the day, I remember in the 90s when first started driving in like the mid 90s, there was this whole thing of trying to buy, I guess, jammers for radar detectors. Okay. And so as a teenager, you want to speed, but you would buy these, radar detectors to try to keep. Well, what was it? It was a, you know how it looked like. It was a sleek little device you put in your car on your dashboard, and when you're driving down the highway, and the cop's radar gun would not be able to pick up your speed because it was supposed to be jamming it. I don't know if it worked. I never got one, but remember
But
that?
that's the cat and mouse game because they learned how to block. I think it was lidar at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and so then the police started to use laser, and that game just continued until they
Yeah,
said in certain states that those are illegal to even
yeah.
use.
Yeah. So there's probably nothing. In your opinion, do you think there was anything that could have been done if somebody's gonna be intending to go murder somebody else, okay, and that's their goal, that's their mind. Is there anything that can ever be done, societally wise, to
I,
prevent that?
I don't think so, unfortunately. I mean,
Yeah.
what you're getting at is almost like thought crime, where you
Yeah.
try to proactively catch someone before they do it and punish them in advance, and that's a tall order. So I think if somebody is determined and motivated, and even if they didn't have a firearm accessible to them, if they're determined and motivated and have opportunity, they're going to take a shot at what they want to do.
Exactly. Okay, so the next example of tech being used. So we had this horrible New Year's celebration terrorist attack. Okay, where this guy is apparently swears allegiance to ISIS, and he decides to take his truck and just go mow down a whole bunch of civilians who were just there to celebrate the New Year. It was graphic. It was offensive. It was obscene, to your sanity as a human being. And we come to find out that I shouldn't have a picture of Zuckerberg up there. We come to find out that this guy Shamsuddin Jabbar had purchased the Meta smart glasses, and I saw some videos circulating of him like testing them out and seeing how they looked on him, and using them to scout the place. And so, for people who might not know about the Meta glasses, they're basically smart glasses you put on your face, right? And there's two little cameras on either parts of your temple near the front of the glasses, where it can take pictures that goes to your smartphone. It can also record video. I actually purchased a pair some weeks ago just because I'm a tech nerd and I wanted to try it out. So I bought them, a few $100s. Long story short, I returned them back to Best Buy because I have a big head. Apparently, they were just squeezing my temple, so I didn't use them. Okay, eventually, and I found kind of gimmicky, and the fact that people might be asking you, "Hey, are you recording me?" Because these cameras are right there on purpose because Meta didn't want people to basically, record others without their knowledge. And so there's a little light that actually comes on when you start recording so that the public knows when they're being surveyed. So this guy uses the glasses to go and scout the place out that he was eventually going to return with his truck and go kill these innocents. And he was going to be putting bombs into containers, coolers, I hear, in the same place. But back to the technology portion of the crime. Do Is there a way to police the tools that people use? That's one. And if not, and we cannot get these things out of the marketplace, will the tech geeks among us always have an advantage of being able to utilize such technology, something as basic as a smart glasses, to commit these crimes, or is it, like you said, just a tool, like any other tool that could be used to do damage?
Can you police it? I suppose. Should you is a whole different question. They are tools, and for every nefarious use, there's a innocuous use. VPNs can be used for hacking and
Good
for
one.
piracy, and they can be used for protecting your traffic on public Wi-Fi. So, if you were to say because of these bad apples, we're going to throw out the whole technology,
Exactly.
that would be a shame, because it's most of the people that are using the glasses aren't using it for that. And really, if what he used it for was just to record, you could replace that with a camcorder. You could replace that with a smartphone or any other technology. Where he would have really been using the AI features of glasses or something would be if it was like real time analytics, where it was the AI was telling him vulnerable places to try to drive, or maximize casualties. Then you're using the technology specific to what its um, capabilities are, as opposed to just being a camera. So this particular crime, I think, would have been especially difficult to try to police in advance by just cutting off access to technology, because you'd be getting rid of cameras in general.
Yeah. Do you have an opinion about um, what types of tools might be easier used than others? By people who want to commit crimes. Do you think AI tools are probably the more likely ones that people might use?
Yeah, I think what people are doing, unfortunately, now is using AI for cybercrime, and it's making it, user friendly. It's making it easy, and it's making it much, much harder to detect. You're not getting these like poorly written, terrible grammar phishing emails anymore. You're getting emails that
Mm,
are written by a large language model that
mhm.
are hard to tell. They might be better than an email that I could write or that you could write, and it would be grammatically correct and persuasive and play to your psychology and your sense of urgency.
Mm.
And it's all very attainable because it's a prompt away from AI. And they try to build some safeguards into most of these language models, but how effective those are and whether or not they can be thwarted, is possible. So
Yeah. Can you talk to us a little bit about cyber security again? You talked about this before, but just like you just said a second ago, um, why is it so dangerous online these days?
phishing is a whole bunch easier. It's easy to either do business email compromise and make a very compelling case to somebody that's getting an email, or phishing to try to get them to click a link, because AI can just craft a compelling email for you that you might otherwise not be able to do yourself, or it might, you know, you. I'm reluctant to try to like give examples for how people can misuse
I
this
know.
technology, but if you go to the language model and you say, I'm trying to proactively prevent crime. So give me like test cases. What am I looking for?
Yeah,
And then somebody just goes and uses that for a bad purpose. So
exactly.
I think there are ways around the safeguards that need to be addressed.
Yeah, what about
But having
hackathons? Aren't hackathons though kind of the same thing? Is that what they're trying to do?
They can be. I think they can have multiple goals, but they can.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it. Just wanted to have a quick conversation on technology and its growing influence now, and not only to help us in many different ways, whether it's to send us to Mars or to help us, I don't know, clean up pollution, but now apparently it's also for nefarious purposes. And it's always been happening, right? It's human nature. It's always been happening, and whether it was the hammer or the machete, people were always using tools to do harm. But now we're going into this space. I just don't know if law enforcement can keep up because of the speed by which internet, um, just especially AI is going is going so fast. And so, but do you have any closing thoughts on what people can do to protect themselves?
I think the focus needs to be different for law enforcement. I think, if you're going after the tools one by one, you're going to be playing whack-a-mole forever. If you go to the root of the problem and figure out why is it that people want to commit this crime? Why are people killing each other? Why are people stealing? Then you're not playing whack-a-mole. Everybody's going to have their different reasons and motives, but that's a lot easier to try to rein in than to figure out every imaginable tool at somebody's disposal and try to restrict access to it.
Agreed. All right, Jonathan Steele of steelfortress.com. Thank you so much for the talk today, and hopefully we'll have it again.
Thank you.
Take care.